Disney's The Haunted Mansion. To give everybody a quick backstory, this movie was supposed to come out. We were talking a minute ago about the Ms. Marvel sandwich that's going to happen in October, November, between one weekend where you will have Dune Part 2 come out. The very next weekend is the Marvels, and the weekend after that is the new Hunger Games film. That was supposed to be Haunted Mansion sandwich. That was supposed to be Haunted Mansion coming out in between those two movies later this year. Haunted Mansion got pulled up to July. This was supposed to be the slot where the Marvels released. But Disney, well, it's got Brie Larson in it, so they screwed it up from casting. But they moved it back. They had to do a lot of reshoots, folks.
I think they kind of knew that they were going to have to I think they knew two things. I think, first of all, because the Marvels move, there's a few things around the Marvels move that haven't moved with the Marvels, which makes absolutely no sense. Because like McDonald's still brought out the Happy Meals last week.
They slated toys.
And there's no reason why toys don't have an expiration date. Boxes don't have an expiration date. McDonald's did that because they had nothing else to fill
technically, their burgers don't have an expiration date.
That is so true, actually, too, Paul.
And it just real quick, Tom, for the audience's sake, folks, understand that the decision to move the Marvels back from July to November later this year and then move Haunted Mansion up was in the same first 5 days that Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania bombed at the box office.
And that was going to get you my second part. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. I was going to say, just give us backstory. Go ahead, Tom.
And we remember this also was the same time of Victoria Alonso got let go as well. Yep. So what I believe happened was they went, and we know they went back for reshoots because they knew that they had to fix this thing because
everything is reshot at Marvel. And not just pickup shoots, like full blown, let's shoot the whole second and third act again. Yeah.
Like, so I have no idea what kind of shape this movie is going to be in when it's all said and done. I think they saw the writing on the wall with Barbie and they knew that the Marvels was going to get killed, and they cannot afford another flop like Indiana Jones. Haunted Mansion, I think they wrote off early on because didn't you guys just say last week they had already cut the funding on the advertising before the week before the movie even came out? So they already knew this thing was going to be a bomb.
Well, they need $400 million to break even on this one.
Oh my God! What?
That's not so bad.
Well, they spent now, guys. Correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I believe they spent 180 on the production budget here.
150. I thought I saw 150.
Okay, 150, and then we know the marketing spend is going to be
about 100.
50. Okay, maybe 100. I mean,
maybe as high as 100. Yeah.
I'm trying, but you get the idea that half of that, of course, or doubling it, however you want to conceptualize the math here, they've got to get, even at the very low end, 375 to 400, and they're at 33 after the first weekend. This thing will fall off a cliff. Now, I have said that I think this is the worst movie that I've seen in the past 3 years.
Wow.
Paulie has a different opinion on it and may take me to task on that. But I just this movie, I'm kind of surprised they even put it out. I'm surprised they didn't put it on Disney Plus.
All right, Paulie, I want to hear what you have to say because let me tell you what, I haven't seen it yet. And every trailer, all the promos that I saw, Paulie, I actually, and you can ask my kids who were in the theater with me, I looked at it and I went, that looks pretty good. That looks like the ride. That looks like visually, I'm engaged with this trailer. What did you think?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I had no expectations when I went to go see it. I almost canceled on going to see it because I did not want to go, but I got to keep running my little channel and, seeing all the early stuff that I can see and just be honest with with my review. Mm-hmm. And I have to tell you, I was completely charmed by it. Is it the greatest thing? No. But it was entertaining. There was it's a great movie for the family. I really like that walking and then half walking, half getting in the ride of Haunted Mansion. I've always loved that since I was a little kid, and that's exact. I got all those things where I was reminded of all the little things were in the film. It was shot well. It looked great. I'm a fan of Lakeith Stanfield, the lead actor. I'm a big fan of this actor. I think he's a very unique leading man, and he was the heart of it because his character's grief is what the what's his name? Alistair.
I don't remember.
I didn't see the movie yet. I don't know the character.
The main baddie. He preys on this guy's grief. Fantastic, but he wasn't the only one. You know, it was Rosario and her son. Everyone had their parts to play, and I was totally enthralled, man. What this to me is a Disney film, and it's a shame that Disney's Disney right now, because this is an old school Disney film like they made 20, 30 years ago. That's just my opinion, and I can tell you the audience I was with had a great time. What more do you want from a film like this?
I'm gonna tell you what. I'm gonna go see it. I want to go see it.
Yeah. Also,
you get to be the referee, Valiant. You get to say which side had this thing pegged the right way.
One last thing I will say was that I think that they did write it off. They were putting their money elsewhere because they're like, let's release it 45 days before Halloween. This is a Halloween heavy film. It ends in the storyline in the film. It ends on Halloween. Halloween. This is gonna be an annual Halloween thing on Disney Plus. It's they probably said, screw it. We'll re-promote it, in 45 days on Disney Plus. So that's how I saw it.
Paulie, I think you're 100% right on that. This is the kind of movie, just like Elf and Christmas Vacation and all these films that were holiday related or to a holiday, some type of holiday related, that hopefully, if they did it right, will stand the test of time. Yeah. And this is a type of movie that Disney should have a very long shelf life with.
Well,
like every year, like Hocus Pocus did for 20, 30 years, this movie should be out there on broadcast, linear broadcast, farm it out to Hulu.
Well, now that you mentioned that, I was kind of thinking they might have moved it up so they could have it on Disney Plus by October. That was one thing I was thinking.
I really think the move was more about the Marvels. They had to do reshoots for that, and Disney does not like most major studios, once they've locked in a major summer slot, they don't like coughing it up. So they had to put something there, and obviously Wish wasn't going to be ready in time. They wanted that Disney animated Thanksgiving release because that works well for family animated children's entertainment. They didn't want to put that in the summer slot. So the only other thing was Haunted Mansion. I think it just got the short end of the stick.
Yeah, and VR, you said something about Hocus Pocus, or this movie has a nice identity to it, in being enriched in the New Orleans kind of duality of life and death, the vibe, the music. They did a really good job. And again, I did not expect this. I did not went into this like with not thinking this at all. So I was actually very impressed.
Like I said, I was visually very satisfied with what I saw in the trailers.
I was surprised at how much I kind of enjoyed this movie. It's not a good movie, but it is mildly entertaining for a family movie. It is fairly entertaining. And I did, in my review, I give it the points that this movie, in a world where we talk about things being woke, there is nothing woke in this movie. This movie is here. Yes. This movie is here strictly to entertain you. And, whether you're entertained or not, that will come down to the individual. But not that I was like it was some deep laugh, but I was laughing quite a bit throughout this movie between Owen Wilson and Tiffany Haddish. Like, they both just had a lot of really good one-liners in this movie.
Danny DeVito.
Yes.
He was so stupid. It was funny. And then there was a great cameo. I don't want to spill it. That was cute.
I wanted to see this movie, Paulie, to be honest with you. I wanted to go see this movie for Danny DeVito. That's the biggest reason I wanted to go see it.
Such a good
So is this movie a throwback to Shaggy DA? The computer wears tennis shoes. Any of you kids out there actually go back to those Disney classics?
I can't speak to that.
I remember.
I don't know that.
It's got a throwback feel of
those old Kurt Russell Disney movies.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. I think it's I think that's it, because but it connects to the ride, and like I said,
Mhm.
it's got a great identity with New Orleans, with the duality of life and death, with the frights, and with the comedy. Again, these are the movies that Disney used to make and kick ass at, and I was like, wow.
Yep.
Let's
I
just
think
say, like,
one of well, this will be short, but I think one of the problems the film will face is that it is too scary. Well, it doesn't know who its demographic is. It doesn't know which audience it's aiming for. So it has lessons in the film brought to you by a small child who is ostracized at school. So that would signal that they thought this was going to be a family film, yet it's too scary for small children. 4, 5, 6 years old, they may be too scared by the Hatbox Ghost. It's got some, in my opinion, some of those scenes are a little bit leaning towards Stranger Things. And then I think by the time you're 13 or 14, I think those kids or teenagers are going to find it campy in places, and they're going to think it's uncool. So it's, I think it's got a thread of needle there that's a little hard for it to pull off.
I think in a sense you're right. Oh no, Michelle, real quick, just let me throw this in here because I'm thinking about this. And again, it kind of reminds me of Hocus Pocus. Hocus Pocus, I'm sorry, it's a crappy movie. It's a stupid movie. It's terrible, but it's got an amount of charm to it. It really does. My kids love it. My wife still loves it. She's been watching it for 2 decades. It's a stupid freaking movie with no redeeming qualities except for the audience it goes after. It's the perfect kind of movie that Disney is so adept at making that has no business hanging on to the zeitgeist like it does for 20 years, but it does it.
I saw it for the first time last year. Yeah.
Yeah, and it just
It
goes on
doesn't
and
hold
on.
up. It sucked.
It
But
doesn't.
too-
But here's the thing: the point is that they're still able to run it on ABC and ABC Family or Freeform or whatever stupid name they call it now, FX, Disney Plus, everything else. It still brings in ad dollars and views after 20 years. Does it bring in as much as say like an Elf or Christmas Vacation does every time the Christmas holidays roll around? No, but it's still a perennial hit. When in that right
It's probably
season.
one of the more popular in that time period, or at least I
yeah.
would say probably one of the more lucrative for television. Yeah.
And hopefully this is what
VR
Disney was going for with this new Haunted Mansion movie. That's it. That's all I was going to say.
Well, VR, I think only time will tell with
Yeah.
that, right? I'm just telling you, it had a lot of great things going for it. And then when you look at this past couple of years of what Disney has put out, you're like, wow, were they embarrassed that this film was so normal?
Well, the problem is nothing they've put out in the last 3 or 4 years, Paulie, has any lasting impact. Like everything that they've put out in the last several years, it is in the zeitgeist and out within 60 days, if that. I mean, there's no lasting
Not that
power.
they purposely promoted.
Yeah,
Encanto and Flaming Hot, it was especially Encanto.
Encanto,
did
I'll
just
give you that one. Yeah.
And it's still going, right?
Yep.
Not to the Disney did not do that on purpose. It was not.
What was the last one they had before Encanto? It's probably Frozen.
Frozen? No.
That's what I'm saying. That's the gaps now. Whereas in the 90s, it was like every year. You went from, like early 90s, you went from Little Mermaid, Aladdin, Beauty and the Beast, Lion King. I mean, it was just hit after hit after hit after hit after hit. And those things are still 2-3 generations later, major impacts.
I would put
Big
it to you
sellers.
that if the Disney brand was not so broken right now, that the movie would have done far better.
I was going to say on this movie, the age, I think it's safe to say probably 7 to 12.
Yeah.
I went with a friend of mine who has a 5-year-old daughter. At times she would squeeze my niece's hand, but then when the movie was over, she said, "Mommy, why did it have to go off?" Like she really enjoyed it at 5 years old. So I think there is an audience, but he's totally right that teenagers will just find this stupid because it is kind of like that pre-horror, like it's kind of like a gateway into the horror community. Like they've got scary elements for kids. It's a little spooky, but it's not like scary that a teen's gonna think it's scary.